Hello and welcome to Dialogue. As China deepens its ties with both the Global South and the Arab world, Chinese Premier Li Qiang is set to attend the 17th BRICS Summit in Brazil and will also pay an official visit to Egypt. What can we expect from the visits? How effective is BRICS as a voice for the Global South? And what role do Egypt and China play in promoting regional peace and stability? To explore these questions, I'm joined in the first half of the show by Nabil Fahmy, former Foreign Minister of Egypt. In the second half, I will also talk to Shivshankar Menon, former National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister of India. That's our topic. I'm Xu Qinduo. Welcome to Dialogue, Mr. Fahmy. First of all, I want your views on this just concluded, what Trump said, 12-day war between Israel and Iran. Of course, the U.S. involved. Is it the end now, or are we expecting something, more prolonged action or reaction from any parties?
First of all, thank you for having me on your program again. It's always a pleasure to be here in China and to be with you. To answer your question, on the one hand, I think all three parties, Iran, Israel, and the US, do not want a renewal of the conflict quickly. They all want to declare that they succeeded. So I think we're going
And they did.
Not all of them, depending on what you wanted to achieve. So for political reasons, I think we're going to buy some time here. But I don't think that it ended in terms of the tensions, the violence between the parties. Let me give you a couple of examples. No one really knows what happened with the Iranian nuclear program or not. So you cannot say it's resolved or not. If it's resolved, then what will the Iranians do after? If it's not resolved, what will the Americans or the Israelis do? And my country, for example, has had a difficult relationship with Iran. And we've even had some issues with their regional politics and with their questions about their nuclear program. But more importantly, just because we differ with a country, it does not give us the right to attack them. So if there is a difference between America and Israel and Iran, it does not give them the right to determine that they will destroy nuclear capacity, economic capacity, or vice versa. They can engage in intensive, constructive diplomacy to keep pushing to get answers. So that's my second point. Once you start accepting the principle that if we differ, the stronger we can use force, it's very dangerous. It opens Pandora's box for a lot of conflicts, symmetrical and asymmetrical conflicts. And asymmetrical conflict can be can have strong implications. Thirdly, I honestly believe that Israel wants to have a sense of tension in the region, because having a sense of tension in the region allows them not to solve the Palestinian question, allows them to ask the West for indiscriminate support, including providing weapons to kill innocent Palestinians. And it also helps the present Israeli government with their own domestic package. So I think we're going to have a little bit of time after the Iranian-Israeli-American conflict, but I don't think it's completely over.
Mm-hmm. We speak of the Palestinian issue, of course, Gaza. Despite the criticism internationally, I would say, Israel continues with their military operation, or as most people would call it, a genocide in Gaza. Why?
Again, the world order was not destroyed by smaller states. The world order was originally established by the victors of World War II, and then we all joined and add some additions to it. But in essence, the core of the world order was there is international law that governs relations between us. which is in the UN Charter. The core of the UN Charter, the inviolability of territories and inacquisition of territory by force, and also that you can only use force pursuant to procedures in the UN or against a clear aggression. Once the major powers, in this case the US, uses force without a UN resolution or provides a political security shield to the Israelis when they use force and are not held accountable, like you correctly said, when they have genocide in the Gaza area, when they try to deport Palestinians. There are crimes against humanity here, but they're not accountable. That's why you see them happening again and again and again. And this is very dangerous because the world, not only the Middle East, but the world as a whole, is losing its humanity. Killing, and the term collateral damage, where thousands and thousands of civilians are killed, is becoming acceptable, not among the laymen, but among strategists. That's very dangerous. So the expert strategists are the ones really destroying the order that we established. There's no order in the world that's perfect. But we establish an order that allows us to manage our relations with each other, and now those who establish it are breaking it.
Very dangerous world. You mentioned large powers in this region, of course, that come to mind, the US, China. The US has a traditional presence, a strong military presence, where China pursues a practice of being patient, investment-driven approach. How does a regional power like Egypt navigate between the two powers?
It's a great question. We don't actually try to navigate between the two powers. We try to basically pursue in a consistent fashion our interest in what we believe achieves peace and security for all. And let me say proudly, before the US, which has been engaged in the region for a long time, and previously the Soviet Union, before they were pursuing peace in the Middle East, we were. We're the ones who started the peace process. We needed them to help to get the Israelis on board. But we are a medium-sized state. So for us, my national security and my prosperity is based on peace and having a set of rules and norms that govern relations between states. We will not all be the same. I'm not suggesting that other states have to have the same kind of system as ours or vice versa. But in dealing with each other, we have to respect international law. So we pursue that. Now, and when I was foreign minister in the past, I would go to the US many times, I came to China many times, I went to Russia. And I always would say, I'm not here to play you against the other. Mm-hmm. I'm here to promote Egypt's interest, and that means being a strong enough partner with each one of you so that I gain interest, so that you understand that in the region, in the Middle East, you have a serious partner towards security and prosperity, serious partner that will differ and agree with you. Not always agree with you, but even when we differ, we will work to solve those differences. And the last reason why I say we don't play them against each other is that the American approach and the Chinese approach is completely different. American had a physical presence with a large security component in the Middle East for years because of their previous competition with Soviet Union in the past. China's presence is more economic, more cultural, more infrastructural. It's not in terms of a military shield. Therefore, there's no real logic to trying to say, replace this by this. Nor is it useful, by the way. I don't want more tension between the big powers in the region. I want more cooperation.
Exactly. Cooperation is in the benefits of everyone.
Definitely.
Speak of the U.S., of course, in particular, for example, the President Donald Trump has said that U.S. ships should be granted free treatment in terms of passing through Panama Canal, the Suez Canal. And what do you make of that?
Well, Suez Canal is governed by the Treaty of Constantinople. It's governed by an international treaty. Nobody goes through it by free because we have expenses to pay, besides it being basically an Egyptian asset, but one that is managed by an international treaty because of its importance. So happy to have many, many more American ships going through the Suez Canal. We will try to make the Suez Canal as attractive economically to American ships, to Chinese ships, to other ships as we can. But the idea that one party can decide what it will pay versus somebody else deciding at a different price is not in the cards.
Mm-hmm. Equal treatment.
Equal treatment in terms of equal treatment based on economics. Mm-hmm. It's not based on political inclination.
We know that there's a summit of BRICS grouping in Brazil, and your country, Egypt, joined the grouping last year. And so from Egyptian point of view, and what is the significance, what is the meaning for Egypt to be part of this group, and what's the expectation of the summit?
The Global South has been seen as previously an online movement, and at certain points in time with China. I even look at it now as larger than that, to be all medium-sized states. All states that clearly understand that multilateralism, that a global village concept, a one world concept is in their favor. We need to act now, not all of us identically, but all of us together, to raise our voices so that the larger powers listen, and we're not against them. We need their support. When you look at BRICS, BRICS was established after the G7, after the G20, lots of different organizations before that, and they were all meant to create a more effective group to help deal with world affairs. BRICS, in my mind, is not anti-anybody. It is meant to be more efficient for those joining it. We joined BRICS recently with a constructive perspective. Hopefully, use BRICS to help with the reform process. Use BRICS to help with having more equitable economic status between states. It's not going to solve all the problems immediately, and I don't think we should make the mistake of always trying to get identical views all the time in BRICS, because that's impossible. But I do believe there's much more in common among BRICS states than there is differences.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know that Chinese Premier Li Qiang will participate in the summit, and after summit, he will pay an official visit to Egypt. What's the expectation, and how do you characterize the current status of the relationship between Beijing and Cairo? First
of all, this is the first time in well over a decade that we have a Chinese official of that level visiting. So that in itself is an important indication. Secondly, as far as I am told, the delegation is quite comprehensive. It's not only a formal state-to-state visit. This is about putting feet on the ground. Egyptian-Chinese economic cooperation over the last decade or so first started off slowly, and then with a small correction has progressed significantly, even to the point where some of our Western colleagues are a bit worried that we're getting too much cooperation. And frankly, I find that concern rather silly, because it's all about mutually beneficial relationships. And if they can make a better offer, ahlan wa sahlan, as we say in Arabic. But that being said, we're looking out to China because this serves our interest. Like you, we're a very old civilization. So anybody who thinks that we don't understand our interest is being naive. And frankly, we also would not lose the opportunity of a constructive partner wanting to engage us and dealing with projects that will affect the region as a whole. And let me make a point here that's also indicative. Your approach in the Middle East is different from the other big powers. But your foreign minister made a statement about the importance of 5 principles, several principles that China was putting forward in terms of dialogue for peace and security in the Middle East. So even on that issue, you're building it on economics, but you're also indicating that, okay, you need to get your house in order, and we are happy to engage on this. And as was just mentioned in the forum a few minutes ago, China hosted the Saudi-Iranian meetings. So there is an evolving role. It's not the same security role as America or the Soviet Union in the past, but there's an evolving role, and we will welcome that. And I can tell you, as I was flying here to Beijing, the Egyptians are getting ready to welcome your Prime Minister quite well.
Thank you, Mr. Fahmy, for speaking with us.
Thank you.
Welcome back. In the second half of our program, I'm joined by Shivshankar Menon, former National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister of India. Let's find out what he has to say about the current state of China-India relations, as well as growing challenges to global security. Welcome to Dialogue, Mr. Menon. We know that the theme of this year's World Peace Forum is Advancing Global Peace and Prosperity, Shared Responsibility, Benefit and Achievement. I would say peace and prosperity. What's your take on that?
I think it's an excellent theme, especially at a time like this, when there's so much uncertainty in the world, and in fact worry and conflict is up. There's more conflict, there's more deaths by conflict, there's displacement. So I think it's really the right theme.
Yeah.
Because these are the 2 things we need. We need peace. And we certainly need prosperity, and that needs development.
Speak of peace, of course, looking at today's world, we have this ongoing Ukraine conflict, Gaza, the brief war between Israel, Iran, US involved. It's far from peaceful, let's say. Many are worrying whether we are getting closer to a 3rd World War. What's your point on that?
It's interesting, actually, what's happened. It seems to me that the traditional order has really collapsed. So we can't talk anymore of the same post-war order. I don't think that works anymore. And I think Mr. Trump actually represents a whole series of things which have happened over time. So it's a historic shift. But he has done one strange thing. He has made direct conflict between the great powers less likely, because I think he's much less willing to enter into a direct conflict with China, with Russia. But other forms of violence, conflict at other levels, has actually gone up. And the uncertainty, the collapse of global order, the disorder actually that you see leads to many more. Many countries think, oh, maybe now's my chance to try and do something, to get what I... So you see what Israel is doing in Gaza, what happened in Syria. You see Russia in Ukraine. You see, Rwanda in Democratic Congo. I mean, wherever you look, people are trying their luck because there's no order. So you see actually a rise in conflict, in deaths by conflict, and so on.
Exactly. A few years back, you cautioned that exceptionalism is dangerous, and emphasize India's right home is Asia and not just the subcontinent. Tell us more on that.
Well, for me, when I look at India's future, what's our biggest job in India? Is to develop our country, to transform India into a modern secure, prosperous country, right? Well-being of the Indians. And for that we need two things. We need a peaceful environment. But our security, therefore, and peace for us is not just the immediate neighborhood. It's also the Indian Ocean, all the way further out. It's concentric circles of peace in Asia. You can't actually just say, oh, Northeast Asia is separate, Southeast Asia. We all affect each other. Secondly, for the prosperity part as well, who do we trade with? Who's our biggest trading partner? China and the US. This is not just within our immediate neighborhood. So for us, it matters what happens. And we are one of the biggest beneficiaries after China of the globalization decades. If you look at, we've had over 30 years of 6% plus growth.
Right.
And much of that has happened because of the globalizing world economy. So we have an interest which actually goes beyond just a local. And that's why I say we can't just say we're exceptional. We'll only worry about ourselves. We are special. We are different. That doesn't work. If you want to transform India, if you want India to keep developing and make its citizens' lives better, we have to think at the very least as Asians. And so I think it's something that where I think, frankly, our fates are intertwined.
Can
Whether
we
we like it or not.
Right, we are intertwined. Can we say India is also for globalization, for free trade?
I think we are for an open, fair trading system, international trading system. We're not sure the present system is fair, but we'd like it to be better. But certainly we want an open system.
On the relationship between China and India, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi just met India's National Security Advisor and Special Representative for the China-India boundary question. And Sri Ajit Doval in late June, so Wang Yi said that there have been some positive development in the bilateral relationship, and he called for deeper communication and greater trust. And so how do you see the progress?
I'm very glad to see that ever since our leaders met, President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi met in Kazan at the BRICS Summit on the sidelines, and I think they gave a very clear directive that they wanted the relationship to improve, to get over whatever had happened in the past. And since then we've had high-level contacts, including the one you mentioned. Our defense minister was in China last week. And we've had a series of, I think Sun Weidong, the Vice Minister, was in Delhi. We're hoping for further visits. And we've seen an improvement not just in the atmosphere, but also in exchanges. Travel, visas, we've agreed now to start direct flights again. We've started the yatra, the pilgrimages into Kailash Mansarovar in Tibet. So I think we're seeing slowly an improvement, a steady improvement. Of course, we always want more, right? We always want more, and we want it done yesterday. So I would like to see that the dialogue, and especially the high-level dialogue, but also the resumption of normal, functional relationships. I would like to see that grow in the future. Mm-hmm. I'm optimistic.
Right, and of course, the question, I think, on some analysts of the Chinese side, they would say India is pursuing a relationship with both China and the United States, strategic partner with the US, Quad member in Asia. So what kind of a role people will say India is playing, a balancer or equitable distance between Washington, Beijing? Or?
I think we've always, and this is frankly, it doesn't matter, bipolar world, unipolar, or now this kind of orderless world, we've always followed strategic autonomy, which doesn't mean that we won't talk to anybody. It means we'll work with everybody, but we will judge issues on the basis of how they affect our basic interest, which is peace and development, as I said. So if that's our interest, then that makes it possible for us to work with everybody. But we don't get into alliances, we don't get into entanglements, which means that other people don't decide for us how the attitude we take. Now, so far it's worked reasonably well for India, I would say. And I think it works for our friends as well, because at one level it makes India predictable. Now, there will be issues between two big neighbors like India and China. some of our problems are problems of intimacy. You know, our periphery is your periphery is ours. It's a shared periphery. We will rub up against each other, but we just have to talk to each other and understand what's important, what's not, how we deal with it. There are things that I think so far, what impresses me is that India and China have shown the ability to manage that relationship and differences.
Well, of course, the Global South, in which obviously both China and India belong to, and the BRICS grouping in specific, they're going to have the summit in Brazil. What's your expectation? You know, people are questioning what kind of role BRICS grouping are playing or are to play, let's say, into this world.
Well, I think expectations of BRICS are very high. You know, 40 countries want to join BRICS. Partly it's a reflection of their dissatisfaction with the present system, international system. But it's also, I think, a desire to have something different from what they've known, and that they think BRICS can offer an alternative, a way of dealing with international issues. But BRICS is still evolving. It's still a very young grouping, and it's just expanded. It's gone through, and it probably will go through more expansions. So I think it'll have to find its own way. But I see it, if BRICS is to be, as I think, the voice of the Global South, then it seems to me it should work for an open, inclusive, and much more fair world. And it can pick the issues accordingly and work on those. It can't repeat what we did earlier. It can't be another NAM, another G77 or any that.
We already have them.
We had them, right. And it was a different time. Mm-hmm. So BRICS, to my mind, is what the Global South can actually do in today's world. And it's an increasingly important, if you look at the membership of BRICS, I mean, its GDP is pretty close to the G7 GDP.
And we have
power is much more evenly distributed in the world today, if you look at it.
We have these new members with a strong economic growth.
Each one brings something different to the table. So.
Right. And again, you know, speaking of the international system collapsing or, you know, erosion, what we had earlier is the NATO summit in Geneva. You know, NATO members agrees with 5% defense increase, spending increase. What do you make of that? Are we seeing the world more chaotic, obviously less peaceful?
I think what's happening is rather sad. Everything is being securitized. You know, and now the measure of success is whether NATO spends on defense. That's hardly a good measure of success. You should be spending on people's welfare. There should be other more positive things that you're spending on. I find that rather sad, that we've come to this stage where this becomes the measure, and this, to my mind, is the signs of the absence of order. And the absence of order obviously scares people enough into thinking, oh, I must now arm myself to be secure. And the Europeans, I think, for two reasons. One is, of course, war has come to Europe again, and pretty cruelly. But also, I think they're not sure that they can rely on the US anymore. So, which is why they're willing to increase their own defense spending. But it's, you know, securitization, militarization. This is not a good trend overall. If our real need is peace, then this is not the way to go to it.
Thank you, Mr. Menon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for this.